When you actually started writing and you decided this was the way to go, how I guess first of all, how did you one say, okay, yes, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to focus on this small subset of people without expanding that and opening it up eventually. And
Yep.
then two, are people like very specifically looking for exactly what you're doing? Or how are you actually getting yourself out there to find the people that are looking for? Like the way I'm thinking about it, like people have this need that they might even not know that they have. And you're kind of having to say, like, hey, you have that problem and I have that exact solution.
Yeah. Okay. So the first part of your question, like, how did you discover this niche and decide just I'm going to go for it? So I think if you're going to bootstrap a company, you have to start with an established market. That, in other words, what I mean by an established market is people already pay money for this service or product. I don't believe bootstrappers, especially like a first time entrepreneur who's bootstrapping, should ever attack a market that is like a completely new novel solution for, a problem. Like that's what you go raise money for from venture capitalists who want to take big swings. And that's fine. That's a different route of business. Or maybe you're a repeat entrepreneur and you've got 10 million in the bank and you're just going to bankroll it yourself, right? That's great. Go for it. But like when you're like me, first time entrepreneur, have a year of runway in the bank, and I like know I need to make cash, I had to come into an established market and say, okay, what's a market where people are already paying money? And then does it match up with a skill set I have or a combination of skills I have that I could deliver into that market, existing market? So that was the first part of it was, yes, there's a demand. People are paying for it. So the way I knew that was that I had been approached by companies who wanted to pay for me to write. So I had already been like, people knew that I had those skills and they wanted me to do that because I had been just writing on my personal blog for years. And so that was part one. The next thing that was kind of the next hurdle I needed to clear for this to make sense for me as like more than just a hobby or side thing to do was, could I operationalize it to the point where I did not need to be the one writing every single article? Because I think that a lot of service entrepreneurs tend to believe that they are unique and they must do all the service themselves. And if that's true, you're chained to your business. You're never going to be able to sell it. You're never going to grow it past a certain point. You're never going to retire. You're never going to take a
Basically
vacation.
building your own
like
nine to five.
that all seems bad. Yes, like you built your own job, and it might be a job you like and get paid well for, but like, and that's not bad. It's just not what I was going for. So like, I look at entrepreneurship as a chance to create an asset that generates recurring income and wealth over time without me having to put more and more time into it, more and more inputs. Now it takes a lot of work to get there, right? Like I'm not there yet. It's going to take me years, I imagine, to get to that point with Draft. But I looked at this process of writing these technical articles and how much margin there was and how many people out there were to write these articles. And I started to realize there were other people like me, and that if you could gather enough of them together to write articles for clients, then you could probably make a viable business where I was just someone running it. And so I started to just try that out. Basically, first thing I did was I grabbed a couple writers or people who were out there writing on the internet and just asked them to help me like write an article for a client. It was like 50-50. One was really good. One was really, really terrible. And I learned from that experience. I got a little better at finding writers and giving them instructions. And, it took us months of iteration on that to figure out our process as it is today. And I imagine it's still going to change. But anyway, so those were we were kind of talking about how to pick that niche. There's an established market, and I knew that there was a way to operationalize it, or I believed there was a way to operationalize it. So those were my two big criteria. And then the second part of your question was what again?
Were there actually people that are looking specifically for, like, were they looking for a person that offered exactly what you were offering? Or was it something that you kind of had to reach out to them and say, like, hey, I know this is what you're looking for and I offer that?
Yeah. So that's a little trickier because our work is so specific, and there isn't like a huge there are competitors, but they're all pretty small companies. Because of that, there's not like there's not Google AdWords we can buy for this yet. There's not established search terms that are definitely exactly a fit for us. There's a few things that are tangentially related. There's a lot of things that are like maybe could get us there, but like it is not a direct one-to-one. You can't just search. I don't know. It's maybe going to get better over the coming years as this market matures, but like this is a pretty new emerging market. Anyway, so it was really hard to figure out. But what we did instead was we thought about, or I thought about, I guess I say we, it's like this habitual thing that entrepreneurs do. Like, so forgive me. Like we is mostly Karl.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'll be writing like a blog post or something and I'm saying we, and then I'm like, there's no we. I'm the only person here.
There's no we. Right. I mean, I do have a little team, but to be honest with this market finding stuff, this was all when it was just me. So what I did to validate some of this was, I mean, first, I knew there was some demand because there were some people who had posted jobs related to this. So they had posted like, we're looking for a content manager, content writer who's technical, has an engineering background. And as I saw some of those jobs, I also found like a list of places that would pay a flat fee for engineers who want to write articles, right? And so I was like, okay, so there's some demand here. I also knew there was these companies, like I mentioned DigitalOcean at the beginning, that had a writer program where they paid everybody who contributed a few $100 to write an article. So I knew there was demand and it was moving and there was money being exchanged, but I wasn't sure exactly how to capture it. So what I did was I said, I want to narrow even further than just companies that want to reach software engineers. I'm going to look only at companies that are Series A and Series B funded, that have just hired or are looking to hire a head of marketing or head of growth or head of content, something like that, some kind of title. So I went to Crunchbase, I went to LinkedIn, I kind of figured out how to grab those two like things together. And I started like sort of tailoring our offering and landing page to those people. And it actually didn't take much. I did a little bit of cold outreach, got a couple of people that way, but that has always been a really small part of our business for the most part. What's happened is because we've tailored our offerings and the way we talk about what we do so much, people just pass us around word of mouth. And these communities are kind of small. This is like, you're talking Series A and Series B companies, mostly funded by Silicon Valley investors. So a lot of them have the same investment group. A lot of them have the same people that go in between them. They go to the same accelerators. They all know each other. So there's lots of people passing around or passing things around. So I've had 2 or 3 clients in the last month that said, so and so mentioned you in a Slack group, or existing customer mentioned you when we were asking about how they produce content. And so it's kind of like I didn't do much in the way of direct outreach. I didn't have to do much in like validating that because there was a market where people were already spending money. All I did was once I got a toe in and realized people realized I could actually deliver quality work, they just immediately started spreading me around to their peers and people that had similar spots.
Right.